Knitting 101. How to knit the knit stitch for beginners. For this tutorial, you will need a pair of knitting needles and a ball of yarn. Now that we've cast on our stitches to our knitting needle, we can begin the process of knitting. Now, knitting is how we create fabric by taking a piece of yarn and creating these little interlocking loops. And these loops build row after row to create our fabric. But before we get into that, I'm going to talk a little bit about some terminology that we're going to be using that will help you. Now, when we're knitting, we have two needles. This needle here that's in my hand right now with the stitches on it is what we will refer to as the main needle. And it will always hold the majority of our stitches when we begin our row. Now we have another needle that is empty, and we will hold this needle in our dominant hand. And we call this needle the working needle. So this is the needle that we will work our stitches off of our main needle with. So we'll be holding our working needle in our dominant hand and our main needle in our non-dominant hand. Another thing that you will want to pay attention to is our stitch structure. So we can see that we have a loop here that's going around our needle. And we call these sections of the loop legs. So this leg right here that's in the front of our needle facing us is going to be called the front leg, and the leg that is on the back is going to be called the back leg. And this will help when we're determining where we want to insert our needle. So let's get into the knit stitch. For step one, we're going to take our working needle in our dominant hand, and we're going to take the tip of the needle and insert it into the front leg of the first stitch on our main needle, going knitwise. Now, we call going in the direction from behind, going the same direction as our point from our main needle knitwise. So we're going to come right behind the front leg here, in between these first two stitches, and we're going to go underneath the main needle and through this loop that's on our main needle. And we're going to create an X. Now for step two, we're going to pinch these two needles together right where they connect. And we are going to take our dominant hand and grab our working yarn. Now this is the loose piece of yarn that is connected to our yarn ball. And we are going to wrap the working yarn around our working needle, which is the needle that's on the bottom of these two needles. So we're going to wrap the yarn around the working needle by going around the back and in between the two needles right in the middle of the X. Okay, so we can see here that the working yarn is right between the needles in our X. Now for step three, we are going to take our working needle and we are going to pull the working yarn through the loop that is on our main needle. And the way that I like to do this is use the friction of pressing the working needle up against the main needle. So we're kind of sliding it across, and we will pick the working yarn through that stitch. Now for step four, we're going to slide the stitch off of the main needle, so right off the edge. And that will be our first stitch transferred onto our working needle. And that's the knit stitch. So let's do that again. First thing we're going to do is insert our working needle into the first stitch on our main needle. We're going to make sure that that working needle is underneath the main needle. We're going to form an X. Then we will wrap the yarn around the working needle, coming in between the two needles, and we will pull the yarn through the stitch that's on our main needle. Now, I'm going to do this from a little bit different angle so that you can kind of see how this is happening, and I'm going very slow. So we're picking the yarn through. Let me do that again for you. And we'll try it from this angle. So we're going to come around, and then we're going to bring the yarn through the stitch, just like that. And then we'll pull that stitch off of the main needle. Now I'm going to do this again so we can see it from a little bit different angle. I'm going to try from the side here. And we're going to bring the yarn around in between the two stitches, the two needles, and we are going to pull the yarn right through. If you can see how that is. Now it's important to keep the friction on the tip of the needle against the main needle. So if you can see here, I'm dragging it across the needle the entire time, and that's what's going to pull this working yarn with it to come through the stitch. All right, so we're going to repeat this sequence all the way across the row. And that's how you knit the knit stitch. Want more New Stitch a Day? Check out our website at newstitchaday.com.